Hi again, it's Salty. Today is not a let's talk or a how-to or even a tip video, so it may have some helpful tips in it. This is a challenge I wanted to try by going back and redesigning an old OC, with the knowledge I have now. So I went back to the ancient text Ibis Paint for a drawing I did my freshman year of high school in one of my classes with just my finger. And this lovely creation is what my challenge will be today. Now, for context, this character is actually much older than my freshman year of high school and was actually a villain OC from an old comic I made in elementary school that I would hand draw and pass out for my friends. I don't have any of those drawings, but this one is from high school, is just based off of those old drawings. So just imagine a very poorly drawn pencil rendition of this. Likely it was on lined paper. Got it? Okay. Looking at the original design, I do think the original concept is interesting with the bandages. I do wonder why these chains on the arms are here and what they are connecting to. Also, when first looking at it, I do have quite a few characters that already have the one eye covered, and I don't want to overuse the trope. And I also just think the face is pretty muddy in this area, and it's really unreadable with the stacked bandage, the bangs, and just the very short eye. Another thing is that the decor on this hair is very illogical. Also, is she floating? Is she flying? What is she doing? 14-year-old me and likely 9-year-old me was really on something. But on things I do like about this is the color palette. I think the color palette is actually really interesting for a character, especially a villain character, which you don't usually associate with these bright pink colors. And as I've already mentioned, I really like the bandage concept. I want to take it more into a grungy aspect, but keep that pink, almost in a little bit of scene core, which I was looking at when I went on my Pinterest deep dives for some more inspiration. Now that I have the things that I like and the things that I want to change from the design, we can get started. I actually had a very hard time with this and started several times. I cut out that footage because it just would have been too much. I struggled with the outfit and the hair and so much more. Another concept I had tossed around was making her a mummy-inspired villain to go with the bandages. The only reason this didn't pan out was I didn't see how a mummy could fit into the existing lore of a story I was making, and I did want to find a way to have her in it somehow, just as an extra challenge to myself. So in my mind, I decided that the bandages were for covering magical runes. She also has complete control of her bandages, using them as extra appendages or weapons. This, in turn, solved the whole is she floating, is she flying debacle. Neither, she uses her bandages to lift her up. I imagine this is to intimidate others and look down on them. I also added the chain accessories back in. This time I made sure they had more logic and weren't just thrown in all willy-nilly. Remember kids, illogical accessories just bog down a design. A lot of people are not going to like this advice, but everything your OC has should have a reason. If you draw them with a book, they're a reader or a writer. If they have a bag, they collect things they find. Or in this example, I imagine she was trapped or imprisoned for her improper use of magic and escaped. But she still can't get rid of all of the chains that once confined her. Now, as you can see in this version, I did go back to having the one eye covered. I tried a few times to have both eyes, but ended up coming up with an important lore reason for why her eye is covered. I also brought back the bandages over the eye, so it wasn't the classic hair covering the eye, which I'm really happy with the bandage. As I mentioned a bit ago, I did go down a rabbit hole of scene core, and while this character is not seen in any way, I did try to make an exaggerated scene hairstyle with the big hair, spiky, and as you'll see later when we come back to coloring, I did use the pink color for that scene, gothic, kind of moody look. Back in the sketching phase, I did mess with adding belts and some other scene accessories, but going back to what I just said, these would have just really bogged down the designs and they weren't necessary and just wouldn't have added anything to the actual character, even though it could have been very visually appealing. This challenge is about making an objectively good character design, so I wanted to look at it as objective as possible. And even as someone who's committed a lot of time recently to character design and studying character design is still really hard. Because I was one of those people who grew up making OCs and was in the animation meme community and Tumblr and Musical.ly and all that stuff, so letting go of all the extra fun details and designs is hard. But the logical side of me knows that the designs read more, and the more you do and get better at building designs using only the necessary tools and things you need to tell a story, you make even better designs. Now onto the home stretch of this challenge. I used basically the same color palette from the original, the pink and the purple, as I did like that it was different from most evil characters you see. The major color change I did was the eye color. I wanted something more dramatic and also just a personal thing, but as a kid I used to really abuse the glowing eye effect, so I was not gonna go down that road again. I couldn't bear doing it again because I really abused that feature. From here, I did my basic shading and textures. Now, if you're doing this kind of design for a character lineup or anything professional, do not add this level of shading and texture details, as it will not read well for comics or animation and will not be helpful in a professional setting. For that kind of work, no shading, or at the very most cell shading, is all that is recommended for a final lineup. Other than that, this character design has come to an end, including research and failed mock-ups. I would say I spent about 2 hours on this, so it was a fun exercise. I may attempt to do other characters in the future, so let me know if you enjoyed this kind of content. I also don't know what to name this OC, so if you have any ideas, let me know in the comments below. Other than that, I hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for watching.